The golden gate to the Immortal Astral Continent has finally opened, but freedom has revealed a crueler price than any battle. Xuan Luo offers Wang Lin's companions a path through reincarnation, while Li Muwan faces only a 50% chance of surviving the crossing beside him. With the final days in the cave world slipping away, old friends choose between home and the unknown. And now, beneath a quiet rain, Bingmei has come to stand before Wang Lin. Someone has tracked rain across the pavilion floor again, so I know the wandering daoists have found their way home. The kettle is already complaining. The old records are open, and even the wine jar seems suspiciously lighter than when we last gathered. Come closer, friends of the jianghu. Tonight's tale carries the taste of farewell, old karma, and a road that may separate souls for 1,000 years. A narrow gap opened within the colossal door, and in that instant, an aura belonging to the Immortal Astral Continent poured into the cave world like a tide from another heaven. Behind Wang Lin, the crumbling world continued to collapse, while old ghost John emerged from the devastation. The cloaked soul surrounding old ghost John lifted its gaze. Monstrous ghostly light flickered within its eyes as it stared at Wang Lin. The instant that door had opened, an inexplicable sensation of life and death had surged through old ghost John's heart. Wang Lin stood beside the ancient doorway and calmly looked back. Immortal Astral Continent aura streamed through the opening and swept across his body. Deep within him, the ancient Tao bloodline seemed to awaken with delight. His blood raced faster, almost as though every drop were instinctively devouring that foreign aura. This reaction revealed something crucial. To ordinary cultivators, the aura beyond the door was merely the breath of another world. But to Wang Lin's ancient Tao bloodline, it was something familiar. Something that called to the origin hidden within his very flesh and blood. Yet, the stronger that aura became, the more violently old Ghost John's instincts warned him. He did not rush forward. Instead, he remained in the distance and attempted to seize control of the confrontation with words.
Even if you open the door, you won't dare to leave! Although I don't possess the memories of the third soul, instincts still remain within the souls. There is a barrier between this cave world and the Immortal Astral Continent. Only those who possess the bloodline of the Immortal Astral Continent can leave. Even if your bloodline calls to you, even if you truly can cross that barrier, if you refuse to hand over the third soul, then the moment you leave this cave, I will kill everyone you care about. The door has already been opened. There is no irreconcilable hatred between us. Give me the third soul, and I will leave this place. I will never return to the cave world again.
His words carried an uncanny force, as though they sought not merely to persuade Wang Lin, but to invade his resolve. Wang Lin remained silent. There was never truly a choice to make. He could not hand over the third soul, because in his heart, that soul was no longer the seven-colored celestial sovereign, Su Dao. It was Xianxia, his disciple. Old Ghost John was bargaining with power, escape, and the lives of Wang Lin's companions, but Wang Lin's refusal was rooted in something cultivation could not measure. Xianxia had entrusted the final remnants of his existence to his teacher. To surrender them now would mean betraying a disciple who had already paid with his life. After a moment of silent thought, Wang Lin raised his right hand. Two ghostly lights flashed into existence above his palm. Within each sphere of dim radiance, blood-colored lines twisted like living seals. They were formed from Xianxia's heart blood. Xianxia had been the reincarnation of the third soul. At the cost of his own life, he had created 3 seals. One had sealed his own soul. The remaining 2 had been given to Wang Lin, the final act of a disciple before death. And those 2 seals possessed a terrifying purpose. Once they fused with the aura of the Immortal Astral Continent, they would gain the power to seal the remaining 2 souls. The instant the seals appeared, the aura streaming through the narrow doorway seemed to find its destination. Vast currents of Immortal Astral Continent energy converged upon Wang Lin's raised hand and rapidly merged into the blood seals. Ghostly radiance exploded outward. It was as if two spectral suns had been born within Wang Lin's palm. His figure blurred behind their light, and even the ancient door itself gradually disappeared within the hazy brilliance. But the seals had not yet reached completion. They continued absorbing the Immortal Astral Continent aura, and because the door had opened only a sliver, the flow was still painfully slow. When old Ghost Xuan sensed the sealing power, his pupils contracted sharply. At last, he understood the source of that overwhelming crisis of life and death. Retreat was now more dangerous than attack. If old Ghost Xuan allowed those seals to finish absorbing the aura, the battle could be decided without Wang Lin needing to overpower him directly. His only opportunity was to interrupt the process before the seals matured. Coldness flashed through old Ghost Xuan's eyes. He abandoned hesitation and charged. His speed erupted. In an instant, he crossed the distance and appeared within 1,000 feet of Wang Lin. His hand rose, and a blazing golden character for battle shot through the void toward his opponent. At the same time, an overlapping shadow formed around the seven-colored soul surrounding old Ghost Xuan. The soul of the seven-colored daoist emerged, radiating seven-colored light as it rushed toward Wang Lin. Then the cloaked soul spread both arms. Its cape expanded like a black wave swallowing the sky, and swept forward with terrifying momentum. Wang Lin's expression did not change. The two seals in his right hand continued drinking in the Immortal Astral Continent aura. As old Ghost Xuan and the two souls descended upon him, Wang Lin raised only his left hand and pushed forward. Behind him, 8 essence true bodies appeared at once. 8 figures, 8 manifestations of essence. And together with Wang Lin, they extended their hands toward the enemy. Thunderous explosions shook the collapsing realm. The 5th flower finally dissipated, revealing Tao Master Blue Dream, the old man surnamed Ma from Planet 5 Elements, Tang Shan, and the others. Nearby were the heavily injured Black Tortoise General and Vermilion Bird General. Old Ghost Xuan's expression changed when the 8 true bodies appeared. Without the third soul's memories, he did not understand what he was seeing. But the old man surnamed Ma understood immediately.
Essence true body exclamation. This is an essence true body exclamation. It is already exceedingly rare for one person to possess even a single essence true body, yet he actually has 8. There are rumors that aside from entering the primordial god realm, another method exists to obtain an essence true body. That method was never proven, but even the existence of such rumors shows how rare these bodies truly are.
8 essence true bodies were not simply 8 additional combatants. They represented Wang Lin's extraordinary accumulation of essences, turning his understanding of the Tao into tangible battle strength. To experts who knew what they were seeing, this was enough to overturn their entire estimation of him. The collision came. Wang Lin and all 8 essence true bodies attacked simultaneously. Heaven-shaking rumbles erupted as old Ghost Xuan, the 7-colored soul, and the cloaked soul trembled under the impact. All 3 were forced backward. For the first time, Wang Lin had confronted old Ghost Xuan head-on, and forced him back. This was more than a single exchanged blow. It marked a change in the balance of power. Wang Lin was no longer merely surviving before an ancient monster of the cave world. He had reached the point where his own foundation could shake that monster directly. Yet Wang Lin's body also trembled. A terrifying counterforce surged through his left hand and flowed into the 8 essence true bodies behind him. Instead of resisting that force, Wang Lin's eyes flashed with insight. He borrowed it. His left hand swept through an arc as he retreated, then slammed against the ancient door. At the same moment, all 8 essence true bodies were carried backward by the force and smashed into the door with him. The door roared. What had been merely a crack widened violently, until nearly 30% of the enormous doorway stood open. Wang Lin had turned the enemy's own power into the force needed to open the path. It was a ruthless use of momentum. Rather than wasting strength resisting Old Ghost John's attack, he converted that pressure into progress toward his true objective. Now the situation changed completely. The door no longer required someone to push it. With the pressure of the Immortal Astral Continent pouring inward, the ancient gateway began opening by itself, slowly, steadily, wider with every breath. An even greater flood of Immortal Astral Continent aura rushed into the cave world and surged toward the two blood seals in Wang Lin's hand. Old Ghost John's expression transformed. Wang Lin raised his right hand. Fear finally filled Old Ghost John's eyes. There was no longer time to gamble. He turned and retreated at full speed. Wang Lin looked at the seals glowing within his palm. For the faintest instant, it seemed as though he could see Xianxia again. The coldness in his eyes softened, replaced by sorrow.
Zai King, you're my disciple, and also my master.
A quiet sigh escaped him. Then Wang Lin waved his right hand. The two seals flew out. They pursued Old Ghost John like fate itself. Speed no longer mattered. Distance no longer mattered. No matter how desperately Old Ghost John fled, the seals closed upon him in an instant. There is a cruel poetry here. Xianxia had already died, yet the final power he left behind became something even Old Ghost John could not outrun. The disciple who had vanished from the battlefield was still determining its outcome. The first seal shot directly toward Old Ghost John's forehead. Old Ghost John roared and formed a spell with both hands. The cloaked soul around him revealed naked fear and swept its hand forward, releasing a burst of light toward the approaching seal. It was useless. Spells could not stop it. Light could not block it. The seal passed through everything before it, as though every defense were nothing more than an illusion. It gently touched the space between the eyebrows of the cloaked shadow surrounding Old Ghost John. A miserable scream tore through the collapsing realm. An overlapping shadow emerged from the cloaked soul, and suddenly transformed into the seven-colored soul. The seal ultimately imprinted itself between that soul's eyebrows. A thunderous explosion followed. The seal expanded around the seven-colored soul like an enormous net. Then the net began to contract. The soul shrank with it, smaller and smaller, until that once formidable existence was reduced to the size of a fist. Its seven-colored radiance faded into dimness. Old Ghost John continued retreating as ripples spread beneath his feet, but the second seal had already arrived. The cloaked soul attached to him watched in absolute terror as the second mark appeared between its eyebrows. The seal dissolved into countless strands of sealing power and enveloped its entire body. In the distance, Tao Master Blue Dream and the others stared in shock. None of them had imagined Wang Lin had prepared such a decisive method. The old man surnamed Ma and Yun Yifeng looked at Wang Lin with especially complicated expressions. They had originally believed that when the cave world reached its final crisis, Xuan Luo would inevitably appear and resolve everything. But Xuan Luo had never appeared. Everything that had happened until this moment had been accomplished by Wang Lin himself. That fact may be more important than the victory itself. Wang Lin was standing before the door to the Immortal Astral Continent, not because a stronger protector had carried him there, but because every scheme, sacrifice, essence, and decision along the way had finally converged in his own hands. The cloaked soul within Old Ghost John was seized as if by an invisible hand around its neck. Its body compressed rapidly until it too became only the size of a fist. Every connection between that soul and Old Ghost John was severed. The moment the connection vanished, Old Ghost John's eyes lost their light. Black blood spilled from his mouth. Yet strangely, although his gaze became dim, it also became clear. He slowly looked around as though waking from an ancient nightmare. At last his eyes settled on Wang Lin, and then moved beyond him, toward the great door that continued opening. Old Ghost John smiled.
Your Excellent, my lifelong dream was to open the door to this cave. But back then, I failed my arcane tribulant and was forced to fuse with him.
Black gas began leaking from his body. His skin withered before the eyes of everyone present, while dark liquid dripped from him. The ancient cultivator was melting away.
I should have died many years ago. You completed my dream. And you freed me, Wang Lin, thank you.
His voice had become terribly weak. Half of his body had already dissolved into nothingness. The enemy Wang Lin had been fighting was finally gone, revealing the man buried beneath that fusion, a cultivator whose obsession with opening the cave had once defined his entire life. In his final moments, victory and defeat no longer mattered. Only the dream beyond the door remained. Then, with only half a body remaining, old Ghost John transformed into a ray of red light. His eyes suddenly shone again. It was as though he had burned the final spark of his life in a single instant. He charged toward the half-open door. Even if death was inevitable, old Ghost John wanted one thing before the end: to see the Immortal Astral Continent he had yearned for throughout his life. Wang Lin did not stop him. He simply watched as that dying red light crossed the threshold. And then old Ghost John disappeared beyond the door. For a man who had spent his existence trying to escape this cave, perhaps there could have been no more fitting end. Wang Lin defeated him, freed him, and finally allowed him to glimpse the world that had remained beyond his reach for so many years. And now, with the gateway still opening behind him, Wang Lin stood at the edge of that same unknown world. The door opened completely. Deep within all heaven, at the very heart of the cave world, the colossal furnace wrapped in black gas began to tremble. The darkness covering its surface fractured inch by inch, as though an ancient seal that had endured countless ages could no longer withstand the force awakening within. A gigantic crack tore through the center of the furnace. Golden radiance burst from within. Thunderous rumbles rolled across the heavens as the fissure widened again and again, until at last the enormous furnace split cleanly into two halves. And behind it appeared a golden door so vast that it seemed large enough to divide one world from another. The door slowly opened. Clouds churned beyond its threshold, concealing and revealing an unfamiliar realm. At moments, a strange continent could be seen through the mist. At others, everything dissolved into indistinct shadows. The instant the golden door manifested, the ruins surrounding the furnace collapsed into nothingness. What had once been an isolated region became ordinary space once more, reconnecting the core with the rest of the cave world. Every cultivator watching from afar felt the same terrifying tremor sweep through the entire cave world. Then, before countless astonished eyes, the former entrance to the cave world's core vanished from all heaven, and the shattered furnace appeared in its place. Endless golden light poured from the door, spreading across the cave world like the first dawn after an age without sunrise. Outside that door, figures appeared one after another. They were the survivors who had entered the core and lived through the catastrophe within. Tuo Sen, Tao Master Blue Dream, Tang Shan, the cultivators of Planet 5 Elements, and Wang Lin. No one spoke. Only the rumbling of the golden gate disturbed the silence. Every gaze was fixed upon that threshold and upon the world beyond it, a world that shifted between clarity and illusion. Wang Lin stared at the open door. In his eyes lay the melancholy of more than 2,000 years. It had finally appeared. The door he had waited for, fought for, and crossed countless calamities to reach, was finally open. Ever since the day Wang Lin learned that everything he knew existed inside a cave world, he had imagined this moment. The day he would break free from that sealed existence and open a path toward the true outside world, the Immortal Astral Continent. Now, Standing before the threshold, he seemed to fall into a trance. Memories surged through his mind one after another. A child born in a mountain village, a young man stepping onto the cultivation path, bloodshed, separation, fortune, disaster, survival. Step by step, year after year, until that village boy had become the man who opened the door of the cave world with his own hands. This was not merely the opening of a gate. For Wang Lin, it was the culmination of more than 2,000 years of persistence. Every cultivation breakthrough, every narrow escape, every loss and every choice had carried him toward this single threshold. Few people standing beside him could truly understand the price hidden behind that golden light.
I have opened the door to the cave world. That is where I will awaken you. This is my promise to you.
Sadness filled Wang Lin's heart as Li Muwan appeared within his memories. Even after so many years, that promise had never faded.
Zai King, I promise to revive you. I will definitely succeed.
He looked again toward the golden door, and for one fleeting instant, it was as though his entire life existed within that radiance. Nearby, the third concubine, Tangshan, stared at the same gateway. Tears slipped silently down her face. She missed her homeland. She missed her sect, her teacher, and everything she had once known before being trapped within the cave world. She had remained here for far too long. Time should have dulled that longing, yet instead it had become the very will that kept her waiting. And now, after all those years, the day she had endured for had finally arrived. The old man surnamed Ma and Yun Yifeng were equally overwhelmed. They too had remained in the cave world for an immeasurable span, yet in the end they had gained little from their long stay. The old man surnamed Ma turned toward Yun Yifeng, kindness appearing in his eyes. He could still remember when Yun Yifeng had been merely 18 or 19 years old. His appearance had hardly changed, but the passage of time within him could no longer be denied. He had long since become an old man in all but outward form.
Let us go home.
Going home.
Yun Yifeng gazed at the golden door. Even his habitual composure cracked beneath the weight of the moment. Yet alongside joy came confusion. After so many years, which place could truly be called his home? The Immortal Astral Continent from which he had originated, or Planet 5 Elements, where so much of his existence had passed. That hesitation revealed the cruelest consequence of being trapped for too long. A cultivator might survive thousands of dangers and preserve his life, yet time itself could quietly sever the meaning of words like homeland and belonging. Behind the old man surnamed Ma stood the two middle-aged cultivators of Planet 5 Elements. They too looked toward the gate with emotions too tangled to put into words. Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird were no different. Bitterness appeared in their hearts as memories of the Seven Dao sect and their years beside the seven-colored celestial sovereign returned. They were finally returning to the Immortal Astral Continent. Yet the Seven Dao sect they remembered was most likely already gone. The path home existed, but the home waiting at its end might have vanished long ago. Dao Master Blue Dreams stood apart from those who had originally come from beyond the cave world. Hidden hesitation filled his eyes. He already understood much of the truth, and knew that the world beneath his feet was only a cave. Yet now that the door stood before him, a question he could no longer avoid surfaced in his heart. Should he leave or should he stay? Tuosen, or perhaps Tuxi within him, also remained silent. His gaze rested upon the golden gate, his thoughts impossible for anyone else to read. Meanwhile, across all heaven, rays of light rapidly approached. Cultivators from distant regions of the cave world had sensed the transformation and rushed toward its source. The moment they saw the world-sized golden door, shock froze upon their faces. After a long while, Wang Lin finally withdrew his gaze from the gate and examined the changes within himself. Following his departure from the fifth flower, all 8 of his essence true bodies had disappeared. His water essence had returned to only small completion, while his other 7 essences had once again become hidden. Everything had reverted to the state it had been in before he entered the Donglin pool. Wang Lin had already expected this outcome. The power granted within the fifth flower had never truly become permanent strength. Even so, losing 8 manifested essence true bodies was no small matter. Yet rather than dwelling on that loss, his attention shifted toward the real Donglin pool on the Immortal Astral Continent. What had vanished here might only have shown him the path toward something far greater outside. A slight fluctuation passed through his heart, then disappeared. Wang Lin suppressed it and turned toward those gathered around him.
There may be feuds between us, feuds for which we once might have fought, until only one remained alive. But now that this door is open, all those grievances end here. If any of you wish to leave the cave world, I will send you on.
Wang Lin clasped his hands toward everyone present. There was no deception in his words, no hidden calculation, only exhaustion. More than 2,000 years of memories had surged back the moment the gate opened. He had finally reached the end of one impossible road, and no matter how formidable his cultivation had become, Wang Lin was still human. A human heart could carry determination for centuries, but even determination had weight. More importantly, his decision to erase old grievances showed how profoundly this moment had changed the balance between everyone present. In the core of the cave world, they had fought under circumstances where survival outweighed hatred. Once the door opened, continuing those battles would have meant dragging the bloodshed of the old world across the threshold into the new one. Wang Lin chose instead to close that chapter. And Wang Lin was not the only one who was weary. Tao Master Blue Dream had intervened because of his daughter and had suffered injuries for it. Tuo Sen had stood somewhere between enemy and ally, yet at the crucial moment he too had helped. Tang Shan, Black Tortoise, Vermilion Bird, and the cultivators of Planet 5 Elements had all endured the same brutal struggle. The battle within the cave world's core had reached an intensity rarely seen even in the long lives of powerful cultivators. After pondering for a moment, the old man surnamed Ma became the first to step forward. He looked at Wang Lin with complicated emotions before finally speaking.
Fellow cultivator, Wang, this old man will leave first. If you ever come to the land of the Celestial, you may visit the 5 Elements sect.
Wang Lin nodded.
Thank you, Senior, for helping me earlier. If fortune allows it, I will certainly visit the 5 Elements sect.
Behind the old man, Yun Yifeng slowly swept his gaze across the surrounding cave world. Nostalgia lingered there. In the end, his eyes returned to Wang Lin, and he clasped his hands.
Brother Wang, take care. Our battle is not finished. When we meet on the Immortal Astral Continent, we will determine the victor.
Fellow cultivator Yun, take care.
Wang Lin watched Yun Yifeng carefully. During their encounters in the cave world, he had already seen enough to recognize how shrewd and calculating this man could be. Their farewell was peaceful, but Yun Yifeng's final words preserved a thread connecting them to the future. The rivalry had not disappeared. It had merely been moved to a larger stage. If they met again, it would no longer be within the limitations of a cave world, but beneath the vastly greater heavens of the Immortal Astral Continent. Wang Lin's gaze shifted toward the 2 other middle-aged cultivators from Planet 5 Elements. As if remembering something, he suddenly raised his hand and waved toward the distant void. Ripples spread through space. The White Tiger General appeared, accompanied by another cultivator from Planet 5 Elements. The old man, surnamed Ma, showed no surprise, as though he had already known what Wang Lin had concealed. Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird, however, were visibly startled.
Fellow cultivators of Planet 5 Elements, I send you all off.
The White Tiger General released the cultivator from Planet 5 Elements. After a brief hesitation, that cultivator returned to his companions. Then the entire group transformed into streaks of light and flew toward the Golden Gate. Golden radiance flashed across their bodies, and in the next instant, they vanished beyond the threshold. Seeing the people of Planet 5 Elements successfully depart, Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird stepped forward and clasped their hands toward Wang Lin.
Fellow cultivator Wang Lin, regarding what happened before, alas, thank you for choosing to forgive us. We will take our leave first. If you ever need our assistance, we will certainly help.
Black Tortoise raised his right hand. A jade flew through the air toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin accepted it, nodded, and then turned his gaze toward the White Tiger General waiting in the distance.
You can go as well.
The White Tiger General froze for a moment, then gratitude filled his eyes. He bowed deeply to Wang Lin before moving to stand beside Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird. Vermilion Bird looked at Wang Lin one final time, his gaze profound and complicated.
Thanks.
The three generals turned into 3 rays of light. Under Wang Lin's silent gaze, they crossed the golden threshold and vanished, returning at last to the Immortal Astral Continent. One departure followed another, and with each flash of golden light, the era of the cave world seemed to lose another figure from its past. These were not victorious armies marching home. They were survivors leaving behind grudges, ruined ambitions, and a battlefield that had nearly consumed them all. Tangshan was next. She stepped toward the Golden Gate, but when she reached a point roughly 100 feet away, she suddenly stopped. Turning around, she looked back at Wang Lin.
Thank you.
Wang Lin met her gaze.
You helped me, and I helped you. There is no need for thanks.
Tangshan opened her mouth as though there were more words she wished to say, yet in the end, silence won. She turned away and flew toward the door. But just as the golden light was about to swallow her figure completely, she suddenly turned back once more.
Will we ever meet again?
Wang Lin gave no answer. The light in Tangshan's eyes dimmed. Golden radiance surrounded her completely, hiding that final change from everyone except herself. Then, her figure faded away within the gate. Wang Lin's silence carried more weight than a promise would have. The Immortal Astral Continent was vast, their futures uncertain, and he had obligations far greater than the comfort of an easy farewell. Whether they would meet again was something even he could not guarantee. By then, those who had never truly belonged to the cave world had departed one after another. Wang Lin's eyes passed across Dao Master Blue Dream and the remaining figures. Then, unexpectedly, his gaze shifted toward an apparently empty region of the void. There was nothing there, no ripple in space, no aura, no visible distortion. To everyone else, it was simply empty darkness. Yet Wang Lin calmly clasped his hands toward that emptiness.
Senior Xuan Luo, you have followed me this entire way. You followed me to Planet 5 Elements, to the Celestial Realm, and even into the core of this cave world. Now you have watched me open the door. Have you seen enough? Can you show yourself?
The instant those words fell, everyone present was shaken. Their gazes snapped toward the empty void. This revelation changed the atmosphere completely. Wang Lin had just exposed someone capable of following him through multiple forbidden regions without being noticed by the other powerful cultivators present. Merely remaining hidden under such circumstances already hinted at a cultivation level far beyond the ordinary experts of the cave world. Then the empty space began to distort. A concealed figure slowly emerged from the void. The sudden appearance sent another wave of shock through everyone watching. From within that blurry figure came a gentle voice.
How did you know my name?
Xuan Luo's words had barely faded when the emptiness before the palace Wang Lin faced began to ripple. From that unseen place, an ancient figure slowly emerged, crossing from concealment into the star system as naturally as though he had always been standing there. The instant Xuan Luo appeared, Dao Master Blue Dream and Tuo Sen both changed expression. Their pupils contracted, and the atmosphere around them turned solemn. Neither of these mighty cultivators had sensed him before he revealed himself. Even now they could see him with their eyes. Yet if they closed those eyes and relied only on divine sense, there would be nothing there. That alone revealed the terrifying gulf between them. Xuan Luo was not merely hiding his aura. His existence seemed to have slipped beyond the perception of experts who already stood near the summit of the cave world. Before such a being, ordinary methods of detection had almost no meaning. Yet Xuan Luo did not spare Tuo Sen or Blue Dream even a glance. His attention rested entirely upon Wang Lin. There was curiosity in his smile as he waited for an answer. Wang Lin discovering his hiding place did not shock him. What interested him more was how Wang Lin had learned his name, and several possibilities had already formed in his mind.
I know. In the first flower of that world, where that little white tiger established the law, you took a strand of soul from the little planet, 5 Elements cultivator. Afterward, you secretly searched that soul and saw what happened on planet 5 Elements after you left.
Wang Lin remained silent for a moment before nodding. Xuan Luo had guessed correctly. The name Xuan Luo had indeed been uncovered from the soul belonging to the avatar of that planet 5 Elements cultivator. That avatar's memories were incomplete and contained only recent events, but recent events were enough. Among them was the scene of Xuan Luo appearing on planet 5 Elements after Wang Lin had already departed. This discovery also resolved a doubt that had lingered in Wang Lin's heart. When he later encountered the cultivators of planet 5 Elements, one person had been conspicuously absent. The old man who had once spoken of the ancient Dao clan with open contempt. More importantly, when Wang Lin laid his trap for the 7-colored daoist, the sudden disappearance of the eye-fish had alarmed him. He had searched carefully for an explanation, and the answer had finally surfaced within that stolen strand of avatar soul. During the second flower, suspicion had already begun to take shape. Inside the ancient tomb, those suspicions hardened into certainty. And when Wang Lin deliberately retreated behind Xuan Luo and allowed the hidden expert to make his move, he received the final confirmation he needed. Wang Lin had not discovered Xuan Luo through one miraculous flash of insight. He had assembled the truth piece by piece, from a missing expert, a vanished eye-fish, fragmented memories, and Xuan Luo's own reactions. It was the same ruthless patience that had carried him through countless life-and-death schemes.
As for how you can determine my exact position, that should be connected to the eye-fish. I overlooked the bond between the male and female eye-fishes.
Xuan Luo shook his head. It was an oversight, and he admitted it without hesitation. Yet, in his eyes, Wang Lin's ability to discover both his location and his identity meant something far more important. The test had been passed, and Xuan Luo was deeply satisfied.
Was this old man correct?
A strange look crossed Wang Lin's face, but he nodded again.
Then not only do you know this old man's name, you also know my identity.
Xuan Luo's smile grew wider. He had remained hidden beside Wang Lin for so long that this strange journey had left him in an unusually good mood. There was even a trace of regret, as though he wished Wang Lin had taken just a little longer to expose him. After a brief silence, Wang Lin finally spoke.
One of the 9 sons of the Immortal Astral Continent, the ancient Dao Grand Empyrean.
When Wang Lin first learned that truth from the Avatar soul, a storm had erupted in his heart. Yet he had concealed every trace of it so perfectly that no one around him had noticed.
The cultivators of Planet 5 Elements abandoned their struggle for the third soul, because of Senior. They even came to assist me because of Senior. Junior is grateful.
The more Xuan Luo observed Wang Lin, the more pleased he became. That satisfaction had been accumulating throughout the journey, and Wang Lin's modest acknowledgement finally drew open laughter from the ancient Grand Empyrean. What Xuan Luo valued most, however, was something Wang Lin had not said. Wang Lin had known that such an overwhelming expert was nearby, yet throughout the brutal struggle at the heart of the cave world, he had never once called upon Xuan Luo for rescue. He had reversed the entire situation through his own power, judgment, and resolve. For Xuan Luo, this was perhaps the final qualification. Strength could be cultivated, techniques could be inherited, and treasures could be bestowed. But the will to stand alone when a savior was already within reach, that could not simply be taught. From this moment, his hesitation about accepting Wang Lin vanished.
Come with me to the land of the ancient Tao, on the immortal astral continent. Become my only disciple, and guard the ancient Tao clan. Little fellow, are you willing?
There was no command in Xuan Luo's tone, no pressure befitting one of the 9 sons. He spoke like an elder asking a junior to walk beside him. That gentleness stirred a warmth inside Wang Lin that was difficult to describe. But Wang Lin did not immediately agree. He lowered his gaze and fell into thought. Xuan Luo had watched him for far too long not to understand what such silence meant. A faint frown appeared on the Grand Empyrean's face. Yet that frown was not directed at Wang Lin. His gaze shifted toward the enormous golden door, and a sigh escaped him.
There are countless cave worlds connected to the immortal astral continent. Any sect of sufficient size may possess one. Yet since ancient times, almost no life born inside those cave worlds has been able to lead, much less kill, the master of the cave world itself.
Had the soul of the 7-colored celestial sovereign not first been shattered, even he would never have suffered the sealing that allowed the events of this cave world to unfold.
Do you know why? Because of the law of the immortal astral continent. If a life born in one of those cave worlds does not possess a bloodline originating from the immortal astral continent, then that life cannot cross its law. You may call it a law, or you may call it an overwhelming pressure, separating the cave worlds from the true continent. Either way, a being without the proper bloodline will be crushed the instant it tries to leap.
The Golden Door was therefore not merely a road to a greater world. For most inhabitants of the cave, it was a boundary of blood and law. Cultivation alone could not break it. Even victory over the cave world's master did not automatically grant freedom.
That law is something no one can simply resist. I understand what you are thinking. You do not wish to leave alone. You want the others to cross that door as well, and see the immortal astral continent.
Wang Lin was silent before answering softly.
If they do not wish to leave, Junior will not force them. But if they wish to go, then yes. Junior has thought of taking them with me.
Impossible. Forget the others. Even the woman named Wan within your dream Tao cannot enter the immortal astral continent.
Those words struck harder than any divine ability. Wang Lin's head snapped upward.
She cannot go either.
A complicated expression appeared on Xuan Luo's face. He understood exactly how much that woman meant to Wang Lin. After a brief silence, he nodded. For a long moment, Wang Lin simply stood there, stunned.
But someone once told me that if a person on the immortal astral continent welcomed me from the other side, the power of its law would be weakened.
Whoever told you that deceived you. Such a thing is impossible, unless all 9 sons act together and jointly resist the supreme law of the immortal astral continent. That law was formed from the bloodlines of the celestial ancestor and the ancient ancestor. It cannot simply be changed.
The color drained from Wang Lin's face, his body staggered backward several steps, and blood seeped from the corner of his mouth as though even the last remnant within him had been forced out by those words. The light in his eyes dimmed. A pain sharper than blades rose from somewhere no cultivation could defend, the sudden collapse of a hope he had carried through countless years.
I examined the woman named Wan Er. Her condition is strained. Her soul is incomplete. A portion of it appears to have disappeared. I even searched the entire cave world for you, but I found no trace of that missing portion. That is what makes this matter so unusual. Whatever the reason, with her soul incomplete, she cannot awaken. If her soul were whole, I might have a way to wake her. You can enter the Immortal Astral Continent first. Later, if you discover the missing part of her soul, you can return and...
Xuan Luo stopped. He could no longer continue, because blood-colored tears had already gathered in Wang Lin's eyes.
Really impossible.
Wang Lin lowered his head. His voice was bitter, almost broken beneath the weight of what he had just heard.
I will not abandon Wen Er here and go to the Immortal Astral Continent alone. The reason I wanted to open that door, the reason I wanted to enter the Immortal Astral Continent in the first place was her. I wanted to find a method there to awaken her. But if she cannot go, and I leave her behind for thousands of years, if she cannot leave, then I would rather remain in this cave world. I would rather never cross that door until the day I die.
His tears fell, stained faintly red. When sorrow entered the soul, the mind followed. And when everything a person had endured for became submerged beneath despair, even tears could carry blood. This was the true reason the Golden Door mattered to Wang Lin. It was never simply ambition, freedom, or the desire to reach a higher cultivation world. Without Wan Er, the Immortal Astral Continent itself lost much of its meaning. For a man who had crossed seas of corpses and endured ages of loneliness, this was the one compromise he refused to make. Tao Master Blue Dream heard every word. He listened to the man connected to his own daughter speak with such unwavering devotion toward another woman. Yet this time, anger did not rise within him. Instead, sympathy and sorrow filled his heart. In Wang Lin's pain, Blue Dream remembered his own wife. Xuan Luo watched Wang Lin in silence for a long time. Finally, the ancient expert released a heavy sigh. Then his gaze sharpened, and when he spoke again, the hopeless path before Wang Lin suddenly gained one narrow opening.
Wang Lin, it is not completely impossible. This old man will go all out once. I will help you resist the law of the Immortal Astral Continent and use the Heavenly Sun reincarnation spell. Any of your friends who wish to leave this cave world can be sent through my spell and reborn upon the Immortal Astral Continent.
It was not true escape in the ordinary sense. Xuan Luo's method would bypass the bloodline restriction by changing the very status of those people. Through reincarnation, they would no longer arrive as lives of the cave world. They would be reborn as natives of the Immortal Astral Continent itself.
After reincarnation, they will possess the bloodline of the Immortal Astral Continent, but their memories will be sealed. You will have to search for them one by one and awaken those memories yourself. That process may be extremely long. Even I cannot calculate the exact time. Some may complete their reincarnation after only a few years. Others may require as long as 1,000 years. And I cannot determine where they will be reborn. The Immortal Astral Continent is simply too vast. If you choose this path, you must be prepared to cross that enormous land and find every one of them yourself.
For anyone else, that condition might have sounded hopeless. Years, centuries, perhaps a millennium of searching across an immeasurable continent. Yet for Wang Lin, the price was at least a path. And a path, however cruel, was infinitely different from absolute impossibility. Xuan Luo then turned to the one person whose situation could not be solved through reincarnation.
As for the woman named Wan because her soul is incomplete, she cannot be reincarnated through this spell. But I will help you with her as well. While I resist the law of the Immortal Astral Continent, you may attempt to take her across directly. Your chance of bringing her safely into the Immortal Astral Continent will be 50%. Only 50%. If the attempt fails, you will die together with her. Now tell me your choice.
For Xuan Luo to do this would require an enormous price, yet he offered it without hesitation. Wang Lin understood better than most that nothing in the cultivation world came without a reason. Help was rarely free. Motives always existed, yet motives did not erase kindness. He remembered Duan Tian of the past, and now he looked upon Xuan Luo. Both had their own reasons for helping him, but the feeling they left behind was warmth rather than cold calculation. And that distinction mattered greatly to Wang Lin. He had never been a man who forgot debts of gratitude. Those who truly helped him became names carved into his heart, whether it was Duan Tian in the past or Xuan Luo standing before him now. The choice before Wang Lin was therefore mercilessly simple. Abandon the people he cherished and cross safely, or stake everything on a road where friends could be scattered for 1,000 years, and Wan'er's survival rested upon a single 50% chance. For Wang Lin, however, anyone who had followed his path this far could already sense which side of that scale carried the greater weight. Wang Lin lowered his head and gazed into the familiar expanse beyond the Golden Gate. The starry void stretched before him, vast and silent, yet his thoughts were far from calm. Xuan Luo's words continued to echo through his mind, revealing both the path into the Immortal Astral Continent and the terrible price required to walk it.
Reincarnate.
The meaning of that single word weighed heavily upon him. Those without the proper bloodline could not simply cross the boundary of the cave world. They would have to abandon their present existence, enter reincarnation, and endure an uncertain passage before appearing somewhere upon the Immortal Astral Continent.
Perhaps it will take only a few years, perhaps 1,000. Anyone without a bloodline who wishes to leave this cave world must pass through this path. After enough time, they will appear somewhere on the Immortal Astral Continent. And when we meet again, even if it is 1,000 years from now, I will have to release their sealed memories.
A long silence passed. Wang Lin finally raised his head and looked at Xuan Luo before giving him a deep bow. He had already understood something crucial. Forcibly creating a path that bent the laws of the Immortal Astral Continent could never be effortless. Whatever method Xuan Luo intended to use, the price paid by an ancient Tao expert of his level would certainly not be small.
Junior does not know who will choose to leave the cave world, nor how many people will come. But no matter what happens, Junior will never forget the kindness Senior has shown me today.
As Wang Lin bowed, something intangible seemed to pass between the two men. It could not be seen, grasped, or explained, yet an invisible bond had quietly taken shape.
As for Wan'er, if the two of us cannot live, then even if we die together before the gate that leads out of this cave world, I will have no regrets.
No regrets. No regrets. No regrets. Those two words rolled through the star system like a declaration carved into heaven itself. They carried more than 2,000 years of Wang Lin's Tao heart. They carried the memory of that fated encounter beyond the Sea of Devils, and all the love, longing, grief, and persistence that had followed. Aside from his mother, there was no woman in the world who could replace Li Muwan within Wang Lin's heart. Across his long cultivation life, he had encountered countless extraordinary women, but none of them was her. Many figures had crossed his path, like butterflies drifting past a lonely traveler, beautiful for a moment before disappearing into the river of years. Yet none was the woman whose memory remained intertwined with the music of the zither. This was not merely attachment. For Wang Lin, Li Muwan had become part of the foundation upon which his Tao heart stood. More than 2,000 years had failed to erase that bond, and even death itself could not make him willingly abandon it. For all the power Wang Lin had gained, this moment revealed something cultivation realms could not measure. When forced to choose between survival and the person he had refused to forget, he had already chosen long ago. Far away, those words reached Tao Master Blue Dream. His eyes dimmed slightly as he turned his gaze toward the direction of the celestial realm and fell into silent contemplation. Xuan Luo's eyes shone with an unusual light. He studied Wang Lin, met his gaze, and slowly nodded.
To cast the reincarnation spell, while resisting the laws of the Immortal Astral Continent, I will need some time to prepare. 1 month from now, bring everyone who wishes to leave. I will cast the spell for them. As for you, this is your own choice.
Xuan Luo no longer tried to persuade him. During the period in which he had tested Wang Lin, he had already learned enough about this man's nature. Once Wang Lin truly made a decision, words alone would never shake it. In Xuan Luo's judgment, Wang Lin possessed precisely the qualities he sought. Wang Lin was willing to wait 1,000 years and search for his companions merely to awaken their sealed memories. To Xuan Luo, that was righteousness. Wang Lin refused to abandon his friends and escape alone. That was benevolence, and he would rather share death with his beloved than survive by betraying his own heart. That was loyalty born from emotion rather than obligation. Xuan Luo's conclusion was equally important. If such a man received genuine kindness and was not betrayed, then Wang Lin would repay that kindness with everything he possessed. To an ancient clan concerned with its future, a protector like that could be worth more than countless temporary alliances. A mysterious light flashed through Xuan Luo's eyes. In that moment he made his decision. Wang Lin looked deeply at Xuan Luo and bowed for the 3rd time. Then he turned and departed. Tao Master Blue Dream followed him, still immersed in his own thoughts. Tuo Sen also bid Wang Lin farewell. Afterward, he wandered absent-mindedly toward the distant horizon, struggling with a decision of his own, whether to remain inside the cave world or accept reincarnation and seek a new existence upon the Immortal Astral Continent. The endless star system glittered with luminous nebulas, beautiful enough to seem like a celestial painting. Yet as Wang Lin looked upon them, an unsettling thought surfaced. He could no longer say with certainty whether what he saw was truly real or merely another layer of illusion. After a long while, he withdrew his gaze and moved through the stars. He did not leave all heaven. Instead, he headed toward the place where planet Donglin had once existed. Planet Donglin had long since collapsed. Only a spatial rift remained, and beyond that rift lay the frozen second flower. Before leaving the cave world, Wang Lin still had promises to fulfill. One concerned Yun Na, the ancient god who had once asked him to free her from the frozen world. The remains of planet Donglin lay on the opposite side of all heaven from the Golden Gate. Even across that immense distance, however, the gate's radiance still reached this place, bathing the surrounding star domain in golden light. The rift leading into the frozen world resembled a wound torn across the heavens. It flickered uneasily, occasionally releasing streams of frigid energy into the golden-tinted starry void. Space outside the rift suddenly distorted. Wang Lin stepped out of nothingness and appeared before it. His eyes narrowed. Ancient Dao aura surged into both hands, and he seized the edges of the spatial wound. Then he tore outward with ruthless force. The star system thundered. The rift widened beneath Wang Lin's power, and a torrent of freezing energy erupted from within. Beyond the shattered boundary, the frozen land of the second flower was finally exposed. It was the only one of the flowers that had not collapsed. The land remained sealed beneath ice. Xuan Luo's power was no longer present there, yet the ancient frozen prison still endured. Standing outside the rift, Wang Lin sent his divine sense deep into that frozen world.
Yun-na! Exclamation. I have come to take you out.
Deep inside the frozen world, upon the enormous stone platform, Yun-na slowly opened her eyes. Her gaze settled upon the distant ice, and a faint smile appeared.
He came.
She closed her eyes once more. A cloud of smoke emerged from between her eyebrows and slipped into the ice before her. Leaving her body behind, that smoky soul drifted through the frozen world until it finally reached the entrance facing all heaven. There she saw Wang Lin. Only a layer of ancient ice still separated them.
Master created me to guard the Donglin sect. To repay that kindness, I left my ancient god body here and used its life force to nourish this place. From this moment onward, my connection with this land is finished. I hope you can help me leave and take my soul away.
Wang Lin looked at Yun-na's soul beyond the ice and immediately understood her choice. When he had first entered the second flower, Yun-na had already asked for his help, but at that time she had not decisively separated her soul from her body. She had waited until Wang Lin passed through the 5 flowers' 8 doors and opened the path out of the cave world, before finally committing herself. Her caution was understandable. Separating the soul from the body was no trivial gamble. Before severing the foundation of her old existence, she had needed proof that Wang Lin truly possessed the ability to fulfill his promise. Wang Lin did not resent her hesitation. A promise was a promise. Without wasting another thought, he stood at the rift and exhaled a mouthful of ancient Dao energy toward the frozen barrier. The breath itself could not be seen, but the instant it touched the ice, sharp cracking sounds exploded through the frozen world. Fractures spread wildly across the surface, multiplying until entire layers began collapsing one after another. As the prison shattered, Yun-na's soul slipped free piece by piece. When the last barrier finally broke apart, those fragments gathered together and reformed into her familiar appearance. Through the opening Wang Lin had created, she escaped at last. Yun-na looked upon the starry heavens with quiet eyes. There was no great outburst of emotion, no visible excitement. She merely watched in silence, as though trying to understand what freedom felt like after such a long imprisonment. After a long while, she turned and bowed toward Wang Lin.
Thank you for helping me.
Wang Lin's gaze rested upon Yun-na's soul. He had completed the promise of freeing her, but another choice still remained before her.
This was my promise to you. Consider it repayment for the help you once gave me. But from here, the decision is yours. You can remain alive within this cave world, or you can head for the Immortal Astral Continent. The true Donglin sect is there. It is also the homeland of your master, the 7-colored celestial sovereign. If you wish to remain here, then you may simply leave. But if you want to enter the Immortal Astral Continent, you must endure the bitter trial of reincarnation. It may last 1,000 years.
Yun-na listened without interruption. After pondering for a time, she looked into the peaceful star system ahead, toward a future she could not yet see.
Reincarnation is good, 1,000 years is not long.
Within those calm words, Wang Lin could sense the bitterness left behind by passing time and the uncertainty of a woman who no longer knew where she belonged. For Yun-na, reincarnation was not simply a dangerous method of travel. It offered the chance to sever the weight of an exhausted past and begin again closer to the true Donglin sect and the world from which her master had come. Perhaps that was why 1,000 years no longer sounded unbearable to her. Wang Lin said nothing more. He raised his right hand and opened his palm. Yunna gently drifted toward him, her soul shrinking until it became a fist-sized sphere of light floating above his hand. He closed his fingers and placed that light into his storage space. Then Wang Lin turned back for one final look at the world imprisoned beneath eternal ice. Afterward he left. Every region of the cave world had become familiar to Wang Lin after the countless years he had spent struggling within it. This time, however, he did not travel at full speed. He moved slowly through the stars, looking upon the places around him as if he were taking one final journey across a homeland he was preparing to leave behind. There was something almost mortal in this choice. A cultivator capable of crossing vast distances in moments deliberately slowed himself down, because once he passed through that final door, these familiar stars might never feel the same again. And Yunna was not the only person to whom Wang Lin had once given his word. Deep within the cloud sea waited another woman, Fan Shanlu. Fan Shanlu's fate had been a pitiful one. She was the celestial sovereign's first concubine, and the younger sister of Fan Shanmin. After remaining inside the cave world for far too long, she had ultimately become trapped within an illusion created by her elder sister, all because of the attempt to obtain Wang Lin's blood of oath. Unlike those born within the cave world, however, Fan Shanlu originally came from the Immortal Astral Continent. That difference changed everything. She did not need to erase her present existence and spend centuries within reincarnation merely to cross the boundary. Wang Lin stepped forward. All heaven vanished behind him as he crossed into the cloud sea and headed toward the deepest regions of the rift where Fan Shanlu remained. Yet bringing Fan Shanlu away was not the final matter left unfinished. During the last month before his departure, Wang Lin suddenly remembered something he had nearly forgotten. A promise made long ago to someone insignificant in the eyes of the cultivation world. He had once promised that small character a physical body possessing a certain level of cultivation. And that person's soul had remained inside Wang Lin's storage space for a very, very long time. For a man preparing to leave an entire world behind, these final journeys were becoming more than simple errands. One by one, Wang Lin was settling old promises, severing unfinished karma, and ensuring that when he finally stepped beyond the cave world, as few debts as possible would remain chained to his past. And now, even a forgotten soul from long ago was about to return to the surface of his story. Ordinarily, a single month in the cave world would vanish like mist beneath the morning sun, yet this final month was different. Every passing day carried the weight of farewell, and every familiar star seemed to remind Wang Lin that the world he had crossed for more than 2,000 years was about to become part of his past. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. During that time, Wang Lin found Fan Shanlu, the celestial sovereign's first concubine. Within her flowed the bloodline of the Immortal Astral Continent, which meant that unlike the cultivators born inside this cave world, she possessed a path through the mysterious door and could return to the land from which her bloodline originated. Fan Shanlu departed, leaving the enormous ship behind. Wang Lin had already refined its mainsail, gaining complete control over the vessel, so with a thought he placed the great ship inside his storage space. During those same 10 days, Wang Lin descended upon a cultivation planet. With the overwhelming reach of his cultivation, he located a body whose life had only just ended. He altered that body, placed the soul of the minor character within it, and helped that soul form an origin soul of its own. For Wang Lin, this was more than simply arranging unfinished matters. Before walking toward an unknown greater world, He was quietly settling the karma he could settle, and leaving behind as few unresolved threads as possible. A cultivator might sever mountains and shatter stars, but some debts could never be erased, merely through strength. Afterward, Wang Lin traveled alone through the vast starry sky. There was no army behind him, no enemy before him, and no great spell shaking the heavens. Yet deep within his heart, a faint reluctance slowly began to grow. At first, that reluctance was only a trace. But the more familiar places he passed, the heavier it became. These were stars beneath which he had fought, lands upon which he had suffered, places where friends had appeared and disappeared. Even for Wang Lin, whose Tao heart had endured countless storms, leaving everything behind was not as simple as stepping through a door. With a quiet sigh, his figure disappeared from the brilliant starlight. When he appeared again, he stood at the junction of the 4 great star systems, the location of the celestial realm. Wang Lin stepped into the celestial realm. Ripples spread through space beneath his arrival, and his divine sense immediately swept outward like an invisible ocean, covering the entire realm. Through it, he sent one message to everyone who could hear him. Those who wished to leave the cave world would have to pass through reincarnation.
If anyone wishes to leave, come find me. I will depart half a month from now.
Wang Lin then returned to the mountain where he had once entered closed-door cultivation. He sat down, closed his eyes, and waited. He would not choose for anyone. Staying meant remaining within the familiar cage of the cave world. Leaving meant surrendering one's current life to reincarnation and gambling everything on an unknown future. Wang Lin could open the road, but he refused to push anyone onto it. He himself did not even know whether the Immortal Astral Continent would be paradise, battlefield, or something far worse. And perhaps that was the cruelest part of this departure. The greatest choice of their lives could not be decided by cultivation level, treasure, or divine ability. It could only be decided by the heart. On the second day, the first familiar figure arrived. White clouds gathered beneath Situnan's feet as he walked through the sky, a wine jug held casually in one hand. His long hair drifted in the wind. His clothes were as carefree as ever, and from a distance he seemed completely unchanged. Yet when he finally reached Wang Lin and took another drink, the calmness on his face could not completely conceal the thoughts moving beneath it.
Wang Lin, tell me, if I reincarnate, do you think I might become the king of some mortal city on the Immortal Astral Continent?
The weight of separation that had hung over the mountain suddenly loosened. Wang Lin smiled, reached out, stole the wine jug from Situnan's hand, and took a long drink.
If by some ridiculous coincidence I really reincarnate as a king, don't come looking for me too soon. Let me enjoy one lifetime as royalty first.
You've decided.
Wang Lin looked at him. Situnan was not merely an old companion. He had once been his teacher, later his friend, and through more than 2,000 years, their paths had crossed again and again. Now, as the two men faced each other, memories from an entire era seemed to pass silently between their gazes.
I've decided. With this old man's talent, wouldn't it be a waste if I didn't go there and turn the place upside down? You'll probably be much happier there.
Sichunan laughed. This time, the laughter carried genuine ease. He reclaimed the wine jug and drank deeply.
On the Immortal Astral Continent, we can live freely and do whatever we please. Wouldn't that be fun?
Wang Lin said nothing. He simply watched Situnan. Their gazes remained locked for a long time until finally Situnan's laughter faded into a sigh.
You little brat, you'd better not forget to come find me. Damn this reincarnation. This old man had better be reborn as a king.
Wang Lin nodded.
If I'm still alive, I will definitely find you.
There was no grand oath and no elaborate farewell. Between men who had crossed life and death together for 2,000 years, a single promise was enough. Situnan was willing to surrender everything to reincarnation, because somewhere beyond that darkness, he believed Wang Lin would eventually come for him. The second person to arrive was Qing Shui. Red Butterfly came beside him. Father and daughter emerged from the void together and descended onto the mountain near Wang Lin. Qing Shui spoke very little. He merely stood there for a long while in silence. Red Butterfly remained beside him, her eyes slightly reddened. Whatever conversation had taken place between father and daughter before coming here, Wang Lin had not witnessed it, but clearly their decision had not been made lightly.
Han Yan, there must be a way for you to return on the Immortal Astral Continent. When that day comes, our family will finally be together again.
Qing Shui's gaze settled upon Red Butterfly, and within the eyes of the man once feared for his killing intent was the unmistakable tenderness of a father. After Situnan, Qing Shui, and Red Butterfly, the fourth to come was 13. For 13, there was almost nothing to consider. Wang Lin was his teacher. If his teacher walked through blades, he would follow through blades. If his teacher crossed seas of fire, he would cross those flames. And if Wang Lin entered reincarnation, then reincarnation itself would not be enough to separate disciple from master. In 13's heart, the bond between master and disciple did not end with one lifetime. A teacher in this life would remain his teacher even after reincarnation erased his name, his memories, and perhaps even the person he had once been. That simplicity made his choice stronger than any calculation. 13 quietly sat behind Wang Lin. He was far calmer than the man he had once been. The killing intent that had formerly followed him like a shadow had almost completely disappeared from the surface, sealed deep within his body, until not even a trace leaked out. Days continued to pass. From different corners of the celestial realm, several more figures arrived. One after another, they silently sat behind Wang Lin. Every person who took a seat there had already made the same decision. They would abandon the certainty of their current existence and step toward reincarnation. On the 9th day after Wang Lin's return, Li Qianmei finally appeared. She wore white and looked noticeably thinner than before. Sorrow rested quietly upon her features, yet beneath that sorrow was the persistence that had always defined her. Before Wang Lin, she tried to bury the pain in her heart, but some emotions were impossible to hide completely.
Should I go?
Wang Lin opened his eyes. For a long time, he simply looked at her.
Should I go?
Her voice trembled this time. Wang Lin could see the helplessness behind those words and the struggle tearing at her heart. In that moment, her conflict felt painfully familiar, because he too knew what it meant to stand between attachment and departure. Words from long ago seemed to echo once more between them.
Should I go?
Li Qianmei forced a faint smile, lifted a hand to gather her hair, and turned away. But before she could leave, Wang Lin reached out and caught her hand.
Go to the Immortal Astral Continent. Wait until I find you, until I release your sealed memories. Perhaps it will take 10 years, perhaps 100, perhaps 1,000. You wait.
Li Qianmei stopped. She turned and looked at him without answering aloud. Then, very softly, she nodded.
I'll find you.
Wang Lin gently drew her back and let her sit beside him. The moment he pulled her close, the sorrow Li Qianmei had been holding back finally broke free. 2 trails of tears slipped down her cheeks and fell silently onto her white clothes.
Father refuses to leave. He will remain here with Mother. I didn't know what I should choose. Should I stay beside Father here, or go to the Immortal Astral Continent and wait for you?
Until that moment, 2 voices had been battling inside her heart. One called her back toward her father. The other pulled her toward the unknown world beyond reincarnation. But when Wang Lin caught her hand, one of those voices finally fell silent.
You truly want me to go to the Immortal Astral Continent.
Confusion still lingered in her eyes as she looked at Wang Lin. He remained silent for a moment, then nodded.
Then you must find me quickly. I'll wait for you forever.
The uncertainty in Li Qianmei's eyes vanished. What remained was determination. Li Qianmei's decision reveals the true price of Wang Lin's path. He could ask others to follow, but he could not spare them the cost. Reincarnation might erase memory, identity, cultivation, and every certainty they possessed. All he could offer was one promise, that no matter whether it took 10 years or 1,000, he would search. For anyone who has followed Wang Lin's journey this far, that promise carries unusual weight. He is not a man who gives such words lightly. Yet even he cannot control what reincarnation will do, and that uncertainty turns this quiet farewell into something more dangerous than many battles he has fought. Time continued its relentless march. Soon, only 3 days remained before the end of Wang Lin's 15-day wait. Many familiar people had come to see him during those days, but compared with those who chose to remain, the number willing to reincarnate was painfully small. Not everyone could calmly face reincarnation. Not everyone could abandon the cultivation they had spent centuries building and place their future inside an unknown world they had never seen. To many, the road Wang Lin had opened did not resemble freedom at all. It resembled death, followed by a gamble. That fear was completely rational. Inside the cave world, these cultivators possessed names, sex, cultivation bases, families, enemies, and positions earned across countless years. Outside it, they might awaken as ordinary mortals with none of those things. Remaining meant accepting a limited world. Leaving meant surrendering everything they currently were. Master Hongshan chose reincarnation. Master South Cloud wrestled with the decision for some time, but ultimately chose to remain. Others whom Wang Lin knew, Zhang Kongli, Master Flamespark, and more, also decided to stay. They would not step beyond the cave world. 2 days remained. Dusk descended upon the celestial realm, covering the distant mountains in darkness until only their silhouettes remained. Yet along the horizon lingered a golden radiance, beautiful and quiet as if heaven itself had painted the final evening of an era. Through that painted world, 3 figures approached. At their center walked an extraordinary middle-aged man whose presence carried the weight of long years. It was Qing Lin. Beside him was his daughter, Qing Shuang, her expression cold and distant. Zhou Yi walked with them. Qing Shuang seemed to pay him no attention, but Zhou Yi showed neither anger nor regret. He merely looked at her with the same longing that had once consumed him. The face before him was the same face engraved upon his memories, yet the person behind that face was no longer the same. That contradiction cut through Zhou Yi like an invisible blade. There were only 2 roads left before him. Abandon what he had carried for so long, or accept the person she had become. Zhou Yi's pain is one of the crueler forms of loss. Death allows grief to recognize an ending. But when the same appearance remains while the person within has changed, hope itself becomes part of the wound. His struggle is no longer about recovering the past. It is about whether he can stop demanding that the present become the past again.
Wang Lin, my daughter and I are prepared to leave and enter reincarnation.
After speaking, Qing Lin turned toward Zhou Yi and sighed. The remaining days slipped away. Zhou Ru came. Shen Gonghu came. Others who had finally reached their decisions also gathered around Wang Lin. Even at the end, however, fewer than 20 people had chosen to leave. Less than 20, among an entire world of cultivators, that tiny number shows how terrifying the unknown truly was. Wang Lin had broken open the cage, but freedom itself demanded a price most people were unwilling to pay. Then came the final day. A thin rain began to fall across the celestial realm. The droplets drifted through the air like countless strands of silver, softening the mountains and blurring the distance. Through that rain walked a woman dressed entirely in white. Wang Lin opened his eyes and slowly looked upward. Beneath an umbrella stood Bingmei. Her long black hair framed a face of extraordinary beauty, and through the rain her figure seemed almost separated from the mortal world. The surroundings grew strangely quiet, until the gentle sound of falling rain seemed to become the only thing remaining between heaven and earth. But what struck Wang Lin was not simply her beauty. It was her appearance, her white clothes, her expression. The combination was one he could never forget. Because at this moment, the woman approaching through the rain no longer seemed merely like Bingmei. She looked like Li Muwan. And with that single familiar image, Wang Lin's final farewell to the cave world reached perhaps its most complicated moment yet. Battles could be settled by strength, enemies could be defeated, and even worlds could be escaped. But some threads of karma were tied not to cultivation, but to memories that had survived for thousands of years.